are the human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being. Welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone. My humanness for this week is actually all about laughter, and laughter in the sense of that one friend that you have that just brings you undone. So I'm sure we all have a friend like this. I have a beautiful friend who messages me memes all the time. And sometimes the stuff she sends me just makes me laugh so much. I actually record myself laughing and send that back to her. And then she records herself laughing, sending it back to me. And we just have these messages that go back and forth to each other where we're literally just laughing at each other, laughing. And this is a big shout out to my friend Sarah, who always seems to find the weirdest, funniest kind of memes to send me. And the thing I love about this so much is I just saw her the other day and we laughed and laughed until we cried over the silliest things. And what it reminds me of, or what I just really cherish about that, is the beauty of connection that we can have with other humans, where it doesn't even matter what we're laughing about, but just how it evokes something in us to let go, to be free, to be beautifully human and messy, especially with things that we find beautiful and funny. So if you have one of those friends that just makes you laugh around the stupidest things, I invite you to reach out to them, send them something funny, just let them know how much you appreciate them, because we all know in the world at the moment where there's a lot of heaviness and there's a lot of hard things that are going on, the power of laughter and connection in that way it's like a magic balm for the soul. So I invite you to laugh a little bit more today as you listen. So this segue, of course, I had to bring the laughter and the joy in with my guest today. My guest is the very funny and I'm going to say endearing, because I think you are so endearing, Ryan Shelton. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Lael. Wow, what a beautiful, that was lovely. Laughter is great, isn't it?
It is. And I'm wondering, because you are a person that makes people laugh all the time, do you have like that one friend, or do you have a mate that you have that relationship with?
Many.
Yeah.
Like I'd say it's almost it's close to a criteria to become a friend. I think that's just how I've naturally always like connected with people probably, and what's drawn me to people. But the people who just naturally, I mean, just the obvious one from high school was Hamish. Like Hamish and I, that's how we connected. He was new to the school and we became friends, and he stayed over at my house and we stayed up all night watching Monty Python. Yeah. And it was just like, it was love at first giggle, basically. But even since then, like there's another friend of mine, Tom, who's an actor. I was acting on a show and he was a new actor, a new character. And I was nervous because even though it was like the second season, I don't do a lot of acting on other people's shows. So I'm like nervous. I want to do the right thing. There are like marks you got to hit, and it's all very professional, big crew. And we just hit it off instantly, and we were giggling like school kids. And it was so fun and so hilarious. But knowing how unprofessional we were being, like we knew that this is like, people are kind of rolling their eyes, and just like we were kind of laughing before we exited the frame of the shot. It was so bad, but so fun. And we're still such good friends. That was years ago.
And do you know what I think? Laughter plays such a really important role in our life, but it's also, it's a response that we can have when we're nervous. And it's actually really helpful for us when we're nervous, because when we laugh, it kind of helps our nervous system go, it's okay, we can settle a bit. And I find that sometimes if I'm really nervous about doing a gig or I've got to get up on stage, if I can laugh in the first minute or two, sometimes at myself or on stage, and get an audience laugh, I'm like instantly will relax and go, okay, we're all here together. It's okay. We're connecting.
Well, it's kind of like
something beautiful about it.
It reminds me of like the early days when you're just sort of starting to do public speaking for the first time, and the general advice back then probably still the same, was like open with a joke.
Yeah.
And the open with a joke obviously is just like, well, let's just put everyone at ease. Making people laugh. It's sort of like it instills a bit of trust. Yes. And they kind of trust you. And oh, this person knows what they're doing. Yeah. They're relaxed, so we can relax.
Yeah. And I mean, I haven't even introduced you yet, but I'm going to get to who Ryan is in a minute. But just carrying on this thread, I also have experienced when I was younger laughter as that nervous thing. And I have one really core memory in my mind, which just is, I mean, this is really a little bit painful, but I remember I was like 19 or 20. I was living overseas and I just found out that my gran had died, and I was living with my brother and my cousin. Well, it wasn't funny, but I had such a nervous reaction. I had to tell my cousin that our gran had died. And I did it laughing because I was so just uncomfortable, and also, you know, I had so many feelings. I was laughing telling him that Gran had died. Now, I know now, you know, having done a lot of work on trauma and it was a trauma response because I didn't know how to cope with it. But I look back and think how amazing the body was going, oh, God, we didn't know how to cope with this, so we'll just laugh while we're doing something.
Is that what that is? Like, because I do that all the time. When I'm like, either it's like I'm having like my partner and I are having a heated argument, and I start smirking and smiling.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm not finding this funny." But it's just like
a natural response. Because what I've become to learn about is that it's a nervous system response that says, wow, I feel a bit awkward here. And laughter, it helps our system settle. So even though it might be inappropriate at that time, you know, that's where it's coming out. And I'm sure many people can relate to that when you're in tricky situations or things like that. The laughter is just that part that's like going, oh, God, this feels intense, or it feels too awkward. And I relate to that. If Mike and I are having words and he says something, I'll start giggling like I'm a schoolgirl. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't stop. And he's just like, he gets madder because it's like I'm not taking it seriously. And it's not all the time, but I'm like, it's a real thing that just happens, isn't it? It's amazing.
Well, it reminds me of a story that Glenn Robbins, like actor comedian Glenn Robbins, he was a guest at one of our Imperfects live shows like that we did, and up on the Gold Coast, and he was talking about play and just the general, you know, and one story he told us, he said, like, you know, often when him and his partner are having an argument, he said if it's getting really heated, he'll just pull his pants down. just to kind of like
break the tension.
He'll just like bend down, put his pants down, and just keep talking. Doing that, but hilarious.
That's probably next level, isn't it? Of let's just break the tension here and see what's going on. All right, let me introduce you for those who don't know Ryan.
Founder of the Resilience Project.
Founder Ryan is 1/3 of the very, very successful podcast, The Imperfects. If you haven't heard of that, you've been living under a rock. He worked in TV for a very long time and has just recently dipped his toe into the art world and says he's hoping to get his whole foot into the art world.
I did. It's something I wanted to do for a long time, but I put on like an art show, basically. It was very tongue-in-cheek and a bunch of like ideas in a gallery, which were all sort of intended to be funny. But it was just the freedom of being able to do anything. And instead of my whole life, I've been like, I've got like a TV screen or a podcast. What can I do within that parameters? It was like, okay, now I've got a physical space that people be walking through. What can I do with that space? And that was really fun and exciting. Yeah.
From what I saw, I didn't get to see it, but from what I saw, it looked fun. I'm wondering, did you have in doing that, were those fears and stuff there of like, are people going to like it? Is it going to, did you have that? Even though it sounds like you were leading into it with, I'm just going to see what happens and give it a go.
Well, everything I do, it starts with, are people going to like it? Like, what if I fail? Everything. Like I put it off for years because of that fear. And not only people, and the opinions I feared most were the opinions of people, like art people,
really
sort of saying like, who the fuck do you think you are, like coming into our industry thinking that you can bring your lame commercial TV sensibilities and you know. So that was the fear. But then of course, and this happens, you know, we all know this feeling, it's like you do it and no one, like people, you know, they might like it, they might not, but no one's very rarely are people like actually criticizing you for trying.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing, I think, isn't it? I feel like that's for me as well. Whenever I create something new, of course that thought pops up of like, oh, how's it going to land? And then my mantra over the years is you're winning because you're doing it. Like you are, it doesn't matter. It does not matter because you said yes, you gave it a go, you put yourself out there. And that's what always sits in the back of my head of like, whatever I'm going to create, if it works, if it doesn't matter because I've done it. And then I'll go, no matter what, I will have learned something from it.
That is what I should think.
Right.
And that's often what I get to at the end.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the thick of it, and I can think that very easily about everyone else. Like everyone else, if anyone else I know, and this is what I was telling myself at the time, if anyone I knew in the comedy world was doing this, I'd be so excited, if not jealous, that I wasn't doing it. And so, but when it comes to me, I'm just like, yeah, but I'm different. People are going to judge me on this one occasion.
So what gets you through? Like, so if that is all very loud in your head, what is it that helps you to kind of have that momentum to push through?
Jam, my partner, she's very encouraging and sort of helps me believe that I can do it. But then also, I think just ultimately, if I keep putting it off and I keep putting it off, but I still want to do it, and the kind of urge is still there, eventually what I need to do is just book in the actual deadline or the time. And then once the thing's booked in, then I'm on the hook.
Yeah.
And I'm either working with, even if I'm working with one other person that's expecting it, I can't not do it now because it'll be an absolute humiliation.
Yeah. And there's something about handing over money or a commitment to someone else that makes you push past your fear sometimes.
Yeah. And I wish I didn't need that, but I often do.
Yeah. And do you find that now kind of at this stage of your life, you just go, I know that's my pattern and I'll just do it anyway? Yeah. Or do you feel like it has moved a little bit as you've gotten older? My kind of mission at this point in my life is because what I've done my whole life is just every single thing I do, I seek the approval of other people. It's like I don't know if it's good or if I should do it if someone else that I respect doesn't think it's good or I should give me permission, basically. And there have been there's sort of the times where that hasn't happened, but more often than not, the general narrative for me is like, I don't know if it was good unless someone tells me it was good. And I think it's good, but so anyway, so this year, and it's actually quite funny yesterday, we had Ben Crow on the podcast yesterday. We spoke to him, and I only realized this in the shower this morning, and it's just like so hilarious that this happened, but I didn't realize it. I said to him, I was telling him this because he was talking about something similar, and I said, so what I'm thinking of doing this year is the only person's approval that I require is my own. Yeah. Like, I don't care. This is what I want to get to. I want to get to a point where I can make a decision or make a video or some sort of artwork, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. As long as I'm proud of it, then that's all that matters. So I said that to him, and then I said, without joking, I was not joking, and I didn't realize how silly this was until today. I said, so is that okay, Ben? Do you reckon that's a good way to go? Do you approve? And he kind of smirked and said, yeah, that's good. But in my mind, I was like, why are you freaking laughing at me, mate? Yeah. But now I realize that it's so hilarious. Yeah. It's such a fundamental belief for so many people of that. Do people like me? Do people approve of me? What do they think? And there's two pieces that I want to talk to you about that. One is I have made a deal with myself now. When anybody, a friend or someone that I know does something new, or they put something out there, they write a book, they write a song, they create something, I'm going to champion them just for the pure fact that they were brave enough to do it. And I just...
Even if it was shit.
Yeah. Because I just think you did it. You moved past the fear of I can't to... And I think that's such a big thing that keeps people stuck, because it's got to be perfect. What if they don't like it? And I think it robs the world of so much beauty and creativity and magic when people hold themselves back. And so my big thing I always think about is I will always champion others to be like, you did it. Like, you did something. It's amazing. And you would have learned something from it. And do you know what's really inspired me around that thinking, which has helped me get over myself, is watching those kind of documentaries of massive superstars, right? Like, you know, like whether it's Taylor Swift or Katy Perry or whatever. And it's not like I really dig their music or like them, but I watch them because I look at what it takes for them to do what they do.
Yeah.
And I think I just bow down to them and go, you are extraordinary. Because to get up on stage and do that in front of that many people, so many people are relying on you, you're paying their wages and you are putting your art out there. And here's all of us, these armchair critics going, don't really like that song, or that wasn't very good, you know, and we sit there in so much judgment, you know, and I just think about that it's so easy for us to judge when we're not actually putting ourselves out there and doing it. But those, and this is what I've found, for those people who do take risks and put themselves out there, they are the ones that often don't judge what others are doing, because they're like, I freaking know how hard that is to put myself out there and doing it, you know. And I remind myself of that all the time. If I'm about to do something hard, I'm about to stretch, I might just go watch one of those documentaries and go, that is, what I'm doing is nothing compared to that arena they're standing in. But I can appreciate the courage it takes to leap forward.
It's like whenever I laugh at this all the time when we go to movies. You know, you go to the cinema and you see a movie, like maybe you're watching Avatar, and you watch like the film and then it ends, and then you go like, yeah, it was fun. It's like 10,000 people and $100 million or $200 million went into like 5 years or 6 years of making that thing, and then you just sit there like, yeah, it's fine. Let's go get some food. But well, I mean, what do you say? But it is true. Like, I think on the micro level, it is so important to get excited about people trying stuff. Because yeah, you're right. There's so many people, myself included, who are just like too scared to put anything out there because of fear of either people saying it's bad, or what's even maybe worse is people saying nothing at all. And then that's just like, that just sort of disappeared into nothing. Like on a sort of micro scale, you know, we've put videos out. We've made like a video for the Imperfects, and it's like this video that we're excited about, and it's funny, and we've edited and cared about, and then you put it out on Instagram, and then you look 2 days later and it's got like one comment from our producer. And so it's like, what happened?
Damn, that was a really good video. I mean, I know that feeling. You're like, hang on, I just left some gold there for you, everybody. Why aren't you picking that up? And then they end up commenting in things that are nothing, and you're just like, it's a game. So I'm curious then about having done the show that you did and the fear that led you, you know, getting past that, doing it. How did you?
Exhibition.
Yeah, your exhibition. Sorry. How did you feel afterwards? So once it was done, how did it feel then?
So incredible. Yeah, incredible. Even during it, probably the best part of it was we had an opening night. And I invited, and I never in my life, I had a 21st birthday party, but other than that, I've never had birthdays. Just always just not wanted to make a big deal about, which sounds weird from what I do, but I didn't want to make a big deal about myself. Didn't want to, and there's probably a bit of a fear of inviting people to my thing. What if they don't come? What if it's shit? I don't know. I just never did it. So it kind of felt like a bit of it kind of in a weird way was a celebration of me. And asking people to come and support me and my work, but so many people came, and it was very touching that so many people made the effort to come out on like a Thursday or Friday night, whatever it was, and just watching people look at all the stuff that I'd done and like laughing or discovering things, enjoying it with people. That was really great. And then even throughout the show, was on for like 10 days, I would just go in and there'd be people in there who I didn't know and that didn't know that I was the person making all the stuff, and just seeing them enjoying it, it's really rewarding to see people. I don't know, like you said in the intro, it's like people are really not coping at the moment, and the world is so shit in a lot of ways at the moment, like in on a grand scale, but then on like a small scale in people's homes and lives and stuff. And so, sorry, I keep knocking the whole set over. But it's like to be able to do something that gives someone like a micro moment of like they forget, to forget the shit for a second and to play a part in that is great. So Jim Carrey's dad, he was like a comedian who was not a comedian basically. And so he was very funny and he would entertain the family. And I think Jim probably saw his dad doing that and how he would kind of, even though the family might have been struggling in different ways, he had the power to free the family or individuals from concern. And that's what Jim Carrey, that's why he does what he does. And I really, not that I see myself freeing the world from concern, but I do see it as like an opportunity to, it's the power of something that is so silly on the surface, like making something which is so silly and it makes no money for me. In fact, it cost me money to do it. Yeah. But like it's an idea that I find very funny and stupid. And I'm like, I want that to exist. Yeah. And then someone else sees it and they didn't know it, but they also wanted it to exist. And it's such a great moment. Yeah. The best version of that I've ever experienced for me was during COVID. I was making monthly videos. So I was doing this project, monthly sort of like a thing that I set out for myself to achieve, like to give myself this deadline that I need to be able to create more stuff. And I didn't realize it was going to be COVID when it started, but it just turned out to be the thing that I did during COVID. Jam, my partner, was working at a retail store in the city in Melbourne. And the woman who she was working for, it was like she was a dressmaker and she made all these like clothes for women, these beautiful clothes. But it was a shop where some days 10 people came through, some days no people came through. And she's upstairs and she's making clothes and then downstairs they're selling it. It's like, and she'd been there for, I think, 30, 40 years in this shop. And when COVID happened, the landlord refused to like freeze the rent and just made her keep paying. And obviously they weren't open. So at this stage, she was like about to close. So she was obviously really, really stressed. And Jam sent me an audio one day. She sent me audio that she'd recorded of her boss watching one of my latest video. So in the midst of all this like fear that she clearly had and this like worry and concern about her future and the business she's had for a whole, like for 30, 40 years, she was out the back of the shop watching my video and pissing herself laughing and didn't know that Jam was recording her. It was like her own private moment, like laughing. And Jam sent me like that. I was like, well, that is crazy that this silly video that I made had the power to give her that like moment of just freedom from her concern just for a moment. Like that was a bit of a game changer for me. Yeah.
Because you realize that, well, it's not just about you. It's about the ripples that happen.
Yeah, it's mostly about me. But yeah, sometimes it's there are elements that are about other people as well. I can see what you mean.
But I think that's I think we need reminders of that. Because sometimes I feel like that too. I'm like, is anything that I say any good? Like, is anyone really listening? Do we really need more of this stuff? And, you know, there's times where I just think, no, I'm not going to do it because really. And then you get a message from someone saying, my God, what you wrote there really hit me, or something in your book just changed something in me. And I think we need that feedback sometimes because it helps us stay aligned with our purpose and our why of what we're doing. But that beautiful story there, what it touches in me is it's why art and creativity and music and performance is so important. And it distresses me greatly in the education system when, you know, we all try and double down because kids aren't learning enough. We'll take away those things. And I'm like, no, they should be the first things that are there, because what it does is it taps us into a whole other side of who we are. It creates connection. It is vital for our well-being, and it has been forever. this point of connection, creativity, expression, all those kind of things, it touches people in ways that other stuff can't. It's why it's so important. It's so important to do.
It is, and it is sometimes easy to forget that, particularly when like that's your industry and it's not going as well as you're seeing other people doing it, and it's so hard to remember that have that as like a reason for doing it, because ultimately people need to make money, and it's can be really, really challenging when you believe that so much, but then you're seeing like your friends who are like real estate agents and lawyers and stuff, and they've bought their third holiday house, and you're like, I know my art is worthy, but God, it'd be good to have a beach house.
Or nice to have a regular paycheck. That's kind of, it's a hard life being a creative or an entrepreneur, because you are having to keep creating it. I mean, and the plus side is, and this is for me, I don't ever want to work for someone. Like, I need to be free to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and that's the bonus of what I get to do that. And the downside is you have to keep creating the work, and you have to hustle a bit, and there's all those kind of things that go with it. It's, and I think we're all different. I think it's really good to know what suits you and where you sit within it. But there is, it's challenges sometimes with it. I'm curious, after the exhibition finished, were you like, oh, I'm going to do another one now? Were you inspired to do something else? Until the fear kicks in again, and then the whole cycle repeats, right?
Yeah, but the fear is a lot less now.
Yeah.
Now that I've kind of broken the seal, I don't feel like it's a world that I'm not allowed to be in anymore.
Amazing.
So I feel like now it's like, because I went in the cave and like there were dragons there, but they were just sort of hanging out playing cards.
Yeah.
Like,
it's scary, but I got you guys, so I could do this. Yeah.
It's like, I guess if I make the wrong move, you could attack, but you don't really care that much. You're just like, have a look around, enjoy yourself.
The thing that always strikes me is people are actually so self-absorbed. No one actually really gives a shit about anyone else. We just think, oh my God, all these people I don't know, I need their approval, or some that I do know. And that's what I think keeps us crippled, when really everyone's so self-absorbed in their own stuff. They don't care. Yeah. They really don't care, because we're all just focused on, I think there's this great quote, if we actually knew how little people gave a shit about us, we'd be offended, because we think that it's like, I've done all this thing and what are people thinking? No one's like, I don't care. Well, you did a thing, It's amazing what keeps us stuck.
Yep. I like I said before, I think I've been held back so much in my life from worrying about what other people will think of the things I do. And this is probably just a natural thing of getting older and maybe getting more experience in something. I care less and less. I still care, but I care less and less about what people think about what I do. And I think part of that is confidence that you get from doing it a lot. When you're starting out and when you're younger, of course there's a fear that what you do will be judged harshly because you've never done it before. And there's every chance that you are pretty shit. Like,
you're kind of meant to be. No one starts out perfect. No. You have to have the apprenticeship. You have to have all the messiness. And that's how you hone your craft, by the doing and the messy first drafts.
Yeah. But I think ultimately, the place where I'm sort of want to get to, and I'm certainly not at yet, but is to a point where I'm just doing what I'm doing and getting excited about it and enjoying the process of the making of it. And this was a sort of a quote mantra type thing that I saw years ago from Gretchen Rubin in one of, I think, the Happiness Project, that book she did. And it really hit home with me and was something that I carried for a long time. It was actually the thing that led to that monthly 11th project that I did over COVID, which was focus on the process, not the product. And because I always focused on the product. It was always like, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that product is the best it can be, because at the end, that's what I'll be judged on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care. I'll work with assholes. I'll, blow up my life. I'll jeopardize relationships if necessary to make that product good. But the way she describes it is like, the product, you can't control whether people like the product or not. But you can control how you get to that product. And ultimately, the product is like one little moment in time. So for the exhibition, the product was 10 days. but the process was like 6 months. And so if I can make that process really fun, then that's my life.
Yeah.
And that really shifted things for me, because I was like, okay, focus on the process, work with your favorite people, even if they're not quote unquote the best qualified or the most experienced or have the most followers. It's like, who do you want to spend your time with, and what do you want to spend your time doing? That has changed a lot for me.
That's so beautiful. I love those insights. And I guess what I think about now is, like, I turned 50 last year, and 50 feels like such a big number, because, when I still feel like I'm 32. I am 32. Like,
Young 32.
Yeah, totally. And so I forget that I'm like a 50-year-old woman, and until I look in the mirror and go, oh, hello. And I was having a conversation with some friends who are also in their 50s, and I'm like, what are we waiting for? Like, if ever there was a time to just be bold or to do something or to jump in or throw caution, like, what now? 50 is such, like, we're over half of my life, and we spend so much of our life playing small, waiting, keeping ourselves hidden because of what others might think, or all that kind of stuff. And there's something in the beauty and the privilege of getting older, I think, that makes you drop a lot of those things and actually just, for me, goes, it's now. Now is the time. Do the things. It doesn't matter how it goes. Just do it, because, we know that whole, the regrets of the dying is when they're, on their deathbed and they're saying, I wish I had have taken more risks. I wish I had have spent more time with my family. Like, what are we waiting for? It is now.
I know. And the other part of that, which I learned a big lesson when for a long time, so I worked with Hamish and Andy, and we made all the Hamish and Andy TV shows like The Gap Year and True Story and Perfect Holiday and all these shows. And within that time, I'm waiting for them to, because I was a performer as well, and I'm a performer, and really wanted to make my TV show. And so I would be like, we'd be working on the Hamish and Andy shows, and that was all great. And I had a little role in that, and that was really fun. And in hindsight, did not appreciate that job as much as I should have. But the reason I didn't appreciate it is because I was waiting for them to say, like, all right, now it's Ryan's turn. Yeah. Now you get your show. Let's now all work on your show. And I would wait, get frustrated, resentful that they weren't giving me my shot. And then eventually I have the light bulb moment of like, they don't need to do shit for me. I need to do this. And once I realized that, it was so freeing, like a bit annoying, because I couldn't blame them on my reluctance anymore.
I know, it's really sweet, isn't it, when you can go, it's your fault for this, or why, until you realize, it's me. Yeah.
Oh, it's like I did that for such a long time, like blaming other people because my career wasn't, moving on like I felt like I deserved it should have been. And then I go like, oh, no, I've got this all wrong. I need to make it happen myself. And because no one's going to give me or hand me a career or anything on a platter, because it's so hard to do. And everyone, like you said before, everyone's got their own shit going on. Like, why should anyone, like in my case, like, why should Hamish and Andy put their career on hold to give me one? Yeah. It's like, that's ridiculous. But in the moment, I believed that was the fair thing.
Okay, you've had 5 goes. It's my turn.
Now it's my turn. Yeah. I genuinely thought that. Yeah, it's so
funny. Don't you look back on times when you're younger and you're thinking and you're like, oh, mate, like, probably people might have gently told us, I didn't know it's that. But, when you're not ready to hear it and you sit in that state, it's very humbling.
There's a great, I'm rereading this book. So Alfred Adler, Adlerian psychology is like, so there's a book, so that's a big sort of psychology umbrella thing, whatever you call it. But one of the books that changed my life was The Courage to be Disliked. And that is all based on Adlerian psychology. And I've lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about?
We were talking about how I'm waiting for others to give us go, or it's my turn now, or that kind of stuff, about being the child. I was saying.
Got it. And one of the things in the sequel to that book, there's the sequel to that book, which is The Courage to be Happy. And in that book, the book talks about this, I don't know if you've heard of juvenile condition. So juvenile condition is, you could probably explain it better than me, but what I took from it was that it's basically a condition where even as an adult, obviously you're acting childish in the way that you wait for other people to make the big decisions for you, and you resist or avoid making any big decisions, and you just go along with whatever's sort of put in front of you. And that has been me for a long, long time, avoiding the really big, scary decisions that are risky, because if I avoid them, then I can't fail at them. But then obviously the flip side of that is if I don't do them, then I float and get to an age where I'm like, what the fuck am I waiting for? Like, just who cares? We're all doing our own shit here, and no one ultimately will give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, you might get a few weird looks or a bad comment, but ultimately no one actually cares.
Yeah, totally. And I think what I love about that, or what it keeps coming back to me, is it takes just an ounce of courage to go, I'm going to do it, or I'll say yes, or I'll put it out there, or, I mean, that's to me the difference between staying small and frozen and then creating something, or changing jobs, or leaving a relationship, or whatever it is that keeps us stuck. I mean, I've seen it over my work of so many years talking to people that we will much prefer to stay stuck in something that doesn't feel good than take a risk and step into the unknown, because we're really scared of the unknown. Because again, all those things, what happens if it doesn't work? What happens if I get judged? What happens if I lose everything? And I think for me, the older I've become, I'm just like, you are going to learn something no matter what. So just jump. Just jump and see what happens. Because no matter what, you'll learn something. You will grow if you have your eyes open to say, there's something in this for me, for my growth and development. But the child part, and I love how you explain that, and I often talk about it, the inner child within us, the small child that's always trying to stay safe, is usually the one that leads most adults. You know, we are a lot of adults, and whether that's about having heated arguments with someone, whether it's talking to our parents still, whether it's about taking risks in the world doing stuff, it's usually the child within us that says, don't do it, you know, play safe, be nice, keep everyone happy. And part of the work is integrating that child to grow up to be the adult who actually says, oh, that feels like a good thing, I'm going to do it anyway, I'm going to leap. You know, it takes the adult in us to actually do it. And a lot of us are still learning to integrate the child part so we can actually stand in the adult self. I mean, that is the work of doing the work to be an actually embodied adult, really.
I mean, that's my psychologist. Do you know Maria Roberto? Yes. So Maria was my first psychologist. And she once said to me, because she probably clocked from the second I walked in, it's like, this kid's living in the comfort zone. You know,
and we got here, we've got a nice happy 7-year-old sitting here.
Right. Yeah. And but the way so probably the idea of like leaping into discomfort clearly was going to be too much for me, and probably still is in many ways. So the way she phrased it to me was like, just try leaning into it.
Yeah.
And that felt a lot safer to me, like weirdly trying to be safe in discomfort, but just leaning and doing like small things that feel a bit uncomfortable, and not feeling like you have to, like, you don't have to quit your job to, you know, to be uncomfortable. You can like lean into this other thing. You could like do stuff on the side, but because the full jump to me is like, I'm not ready for that. Yeah. And if I'm not ready for it now, I probably never will be. But the leaning felt a little bit more like I can do a baby step. Yeah,
which I think makes a lot of sense, because we need that. We're always going to default to safety, which is I need to know that I'm going to be okay. And I think it's the actual first tiny little bit that steps towards I'm going to do something new, which is just I love that idea of leaning in to doing something. Yeah. I'm gonna start going to a pottery class because that's out of my comfort zone. So that's first a step, but I'll stay in this kind of little place here. And I mean, we're all different humans, right? Some people need a lot of evidence before they can move. Some people just fly and go, oh, just do it, whatever. And, you know.
And I love, like, those people. My whole life I've been like inspired by those people.
Yeah.
Like those people from like primary school, when I look back on it, all the people that I've been like attracted to, whether it's like friends or romance, are people who inject that life into me. And they're the people who just, usually they jump, or they're living a life which is so different to mine. Like one of my like favorite friends in primary school was the kid who always had the plaster cast.
Yeah, because he was always hurting himself. Yeah.
Actually always jumping off stuff. Yeah. And it's like, that is like, they're living, like they're alive. Like maybe he got in trouble all the time and he was like difficult, but it's like, no, they're living.
Yeah. And it makes you think about, I often sometimes, because I've worked with children for a long time, when you look at a child who doesn't have as many hang-ups as what we do as adults, they live in the moment, they take risks, they try things, they draw stuff and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like so much, we are born that way of being curious, taking risks, trying new things and not having to be good at it. And then somewhere, as we go in, usually probably into adolescence and the teenage years, we start to shut down on that because it becomes all about that external, am I going to get, approval, all the things. And I sometimes think we need to go back to that childlike state of taking risk and playing, to tap into those little elements. As long as we don't just stay as the child, right? I mean, there's the dance. We've got the child, as we were talking about before, that can sometimes not be healthy as the adult, but then that childlike wonder, I think we sometimes need to tap back into.
Like the bravery that the kid doesn't know that they're being brave.
Yeah.
But they just inherently are because they haven't got the holdbacks.
Conditioning, yeah.
There's that. There's this thing, I've talked about this a lot on the Imperfects, but I love it so much, and I feel like it applies to so many things, and it is Adlerian again, but it's the 3-sided column. Do you know that? There's this. He talks about like the 3-sided column, and on each side is written a different thing, and on one side of the 3-sided column it says "poor me." On the second side, it says "that bad person."
Oh, yeah.
And then on the third side, and so we spend most of our life looking at those two sides of the 3-sided thing, that bad person or poor me. But on the third side that we rarely see, but we should be spinning around to look at all the time, is what can I do from this point on?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think about that all the time, because you can always think of a person or a reason or an obstacle that you give as the reason why you're not doing that thing you want to do. Or you say like, so it's like, poor me, like, how am I supposed to do it when this person's doing this and saying this? Is like, nah, you have more control than you think.
It really is a lens we look through, isn't it? Because for me, in hearing you say that, it's about us taking accountability for our life. And I think we live in a culture where we have been taught to blame everyone else. We're actually being taught to be the victim in a lot of ways, I think. And when we actually can be accountable for, taking responsibility for our life, what can I do in this moment? What am I making it mean? All those things. That's where I think we begin to have power because we realize that, life may be happening to us, but life is happening for us. Like everything is a beautiful gift. And I feel really lucky. I was brought up with a really wise mum who from a really young age would say to me, whatever's going on, even if I was complaining about this or that, she'd be like, and what's the gift in that for you? And I'd be like, fuck off. There's no gift in it.
Like,
yes. But I really do love that in planting those seeds with me, it really made me think about what's my reaction here? What am I making this mean? How do I take accountability for something here? What do I want? And I think that's not a lot of people had that growing up. I feel really blessed that was an internal narrative in my head, which has given me the opportunity to take responsibility for my life or go, I'm not going to be the victim in it. I'm actually just going to watch and look. That feels uncomfortable. What's in it for me? Lean into it and start to shift and move. And I really do think that is the work of becoming the adult, which is where we actually learn to take accountability and also go, yeah, that person may not be a nice person and yeah, I do want to say it's not fair, but no one's going to come in and change it for me. No one's going to give you your own show, right? Mm. You got to work for it. Yeah. And that is, I think, the work of being the adult is just being like, I have to claim my space here, take responsibility for it. There's such beautiful power in that.
Yeah. And then you got to go out and try and get your own show and then not get it and realize you didn't need it.
Yeah. That's the next bit that goes with it. I'm wondering, I just want to touch on being a comedian. I mean, you're so much more than that. But when you kind of look back to where that kind of formed for you as a kid, do you have memories of being funny at home or making people laugh and it really sinking in of like, this is a thing or this is what feels good?
A little bit, yeah, definitely. I don't really come from a family of like artists or there's no like entertainment background or anything like that in my family. So on one hand, it's sort of hard to know where it comes from, but but I did, like, my dad showed me like Monty Python from a young age and like Fawlty Towers, and I used to love watching Comedy Company, and I loved comedy and I loved the silliness of it. I just loved how silly these adults are being. It just seems so exciting. My mum said that apparently when I was 8, I told her I wanted to be a comedian when I was 8. I don't remember. But then one of the big things, so every second Friday night, a Jewish family, so we would go to the grandparents' house and have Shabbat dinner every second Friday night. And so it was with the cousins. So it was like me, my sister Vanessa, and then our 4 cousins as well. And all the kids sit down one end of the big table. And the thing I remember often doing was it became a challenge to try and make all the cousins laugh at the same time. So I could get one of them laughing, but I had to get them all laughing at once. That was sort of the challenge. And that's the most prominent thing, other than like doing the school plays and things like that. I don't think I was never like a class clown. I'm not like a naturally gregarious, I'm not really trying to like win the attention of the room in every room I'm in, I don't think. And that's what Jam, my partner, said when she knew she was going to meet me. She was like, oh God, because she knew I'd been on like TV and stuff. She didn't really know, but she was like, oh, fuck, another comedian, here we go. But she was surprised, I think, that I was quite quiet. And I think often I am quite quiet, particularly if there's a bigger voice in the room. So it's not like I was like dancing on the walls as a kid or anything. I did like, with the cousins, we'd do like little shows for the adults, but all kids do that. They'd do puppet shows and things like that. But I don't think I wasn't like a born performer. I don't think.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? When, because I often look at life through different archetypes that we can play. And, for comedians or people that make people laugh, sometimes the shadow side of that archetype is just wanting the attention, wanting the applause. And then the purest thing of that is just that beautiful creativity and the magic and the connection that it creates. And we can look at that with many different types of professions. Like I know when I first started working in counselling and working with people, it met a need in me to be needed. And I remember it became a whole lot of my identity of just like, oh, people need me and I help them and I save them and all this kind of stuff. And, I did that for a long time until I realised, well, that's quite dangerous because your ego is all about, people need me and I have to help them. And actually that's not the purity of the work. The work is you just want to hold a beautiful, safe container for people to help themselves, I don't fix or save them. And it's interesting, I think, in many different careers and things that we do, how we become so identified with that image of ourselves. And, I love hearing that part of you. I can see that in you, that there's that quiet part of you that's reserved. And, is that how you feel just when you're with Jam or when you're at home? Is that what's there?
Yeah, with Jam and I were talking about this last night. She said that, like sometimes people ask her like, God, it must be so crazy at your house. Like it must be so funny and, but we do laugh, but to be honest, Jam's much funnier than me at home. Like I'm more laughing at her than she's laughing at me. I think I probably save it more for when I'm doing a job or when I'm performing actually. I think I don't like try, I probably just am naturally funny in some ways with people, but it's not, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not like trying to win people.
It's not, and I think it sounds like a really healthy balance because that persona of having to be the funny one all the time, and that's a lot of pressure.
It's just nothing. I've just never had that. I think the bigger issue I've had is trying to be the good boy. That's probably the thing that I need to sort of let go of a little bit is I think more than being the funny guy, I think what I'm more attached to is the need to be the good boy who always does the right thing.
Yeah. And do you feel like, a lot of the work I do about imprints is just what the family of origin that we grow up in and the unconscious patterns and stories we take on board, so, from our parents who are so well-meaning, often saying things like, go and say hello to that person, or you must thank them, or you've, just that pressure to be good in order to be loved, does that feel like that's really where it stemmed from for you?
Oh, even in therapy, I'm like trying to be the good patient. Like I'm trying to like say the good things and see if my therapist is impressed with what I know about psychology. Like even here, I'm like saying things that I'm hoping that Lael will be like, geez, Ryan really knows his shit. Like it's always running through me, this like need for people to go like, oh wow, he's very good or very polite. Oh, that's very nice what he did. He's so nice. Yeah.
And what do you reckon would happen if you put that down? Like if you were like, okay, this thing that I've been carrying and I put it down, like, does that feel a bit scary?
The world would end.
Yeah.
The world would end.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what would happen. I mean, I'm trying to work on it, and this is sort of just a lot to do with this trying to let go of the approval of others. It's sort of tied up with that, I guess. I'm on the precipice of a breakthrough in therapy, I think. So I think
back in a year and we'll chat and see how it's going.
I reckon I'm 5 to 10 sessions away from like an aha situation. So it's I feel like I'm like heading towards something good, but I think just from doing the podcast and just naturally reading stuff, listening to you, it's like you just naturally become more self-aware of like your shortcomings. And
and I think that part, the approval part, I mean, it's rare that I meet an adult that doesn't really carry that. Like we all have it. And I think because we grew up in a time where it was very much about this behaviorism thing of we reward you when you're good, we ignore you, or, we turn away from you when you're bad. Like it's most adults I work with today have this story. And this is why I feel really passionate about emotional intelligence and shifting this narrative for the next generations to come so that they don't have to carry that story. But it's a really big one to put down. Like it's not easy. I mean, if we could all just go, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore, we would. But it's like a lifetime ingrained within us of acceptance means people approving, my parents loving me, all that kind of stuff. And as much as we can know it in our brains, the integration of it's really tricky.
Yeah. I think practically speaking for me, the way that I will probably approach it is more in my work to start with, and to be truly proud of the work that I'm doing, like me being proud of it, not like thinking, will they like it? Yeah. Like if the measure is solely, am I truly proud of it? Yeah. I think that's a good place for me to start practically.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it sounds like you're definitely on the path of just, tuning into doing it for you. Like exactly what, you said to Ben yesterday of like, I'm going to create this just for me. And
as long as you approve, Lael.
Oh, well, if I'll give you my tick, I'll give you a star, right? I'll give you a gold star and then you can go, oh, okay.
It was worth coming.
That feels good. As we're just touching kind of on those imprints that we take as kids, if you were to leave an imprint on the world, right? When people thought about Ryan Shelton, what would you hope or wish that imprint would be?
I think silliness is worth taking seriously.
I love that.
Yeah. I feel like silliness is often overlooked as something that's like not needed or for kids or for, people who aren't taking themselves seriously. But so many of us don't realize how much we love silliness and don't often know how to seek it out. And probably that's probably one of the positives about social media is that even like the memes that Sarah sends you, they're often so silly.
Yeah.
But before that, when we were just reliant on radio and television, you really had to wait. There's maybe once a week where you get to see silliness.
Yeah.
But now silliness is everywhere. Unfortunately, it's followed quickly by trauma on the feed. So you have to be pretty selective and careful where you step. But silliness should be taken so seriously. Like the Monty Python's Ministry of Silly Walks is not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like it's treated as a stupid idea, but like silliness, we obviously, and I'm the billionth person to say this, but like we lose that ability to be silly when we grow up, and it's sort of like pushed out of us. But we desperately want it. Like we want silliness. So like the people being silly in this world. I mean, a lot of them are getting paid very well, but people should be paid more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right. We start off silly and playful and it's acceptable. And then we are told to grow up and get serious. And then I wonder, as I get to this next stage of my life, like I have friends now who, again, past 50, who just don't give a shit anymore and are becoming more and more silly. And that is the best. That is the best. It's just this freedom now to be like, I don't care what you think. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to have more fun.
Can I recommend a film that speaks to this perfectly? It's a German film, so you got to read subtitles annoyingly unless you speak German. Tony Erdmann. So it's pretty recent, and it's a slow film, but one of the characters is called Tony Erdmann, and basic premise is it's a father who's Tony. He's probably in his 60s, silly, loves silliness, pranking, like takes silliness very seriously. And his daughter comes to visit, or he goes to visit his daughter, and his daughter who he clearly used to play around with when she was young, she's gone into this very serious job, very serious career, and isn't able to be silly anymore. And he's so concerned about this that he infiltrates her corporate life to bring silliness back into her life.
Love that.
It is, I'm getting chills thinking about it. It's great.
Yeah, I love that. That is, it's actually what we need.
Yeah.
And I think too, as we kind of started off this conversation, the world's really heavy and we need connection and laughter and that silliness more than ever because it connects us as humans. It brings us back to actually that we all laugh and that it feels good for the soul, helps us release those beautiful hormones and make us feel good. We actually need more of that. And so we should have like a World Silliness Day. It should be like,
Great idea.
It is. And then maybe one's not enough and then we can do more. And I think it is like the antidote to the heaviness. It really is, that playfulness, that silliness, the connection, the laughter. It's how we're going to get through, the changes and the trickiness of where we're living at the moment. It has to be through that.
And it doesn't need to mean that we're not taking our life seriously.
No.
If we're being silly.
Yeah.
It's like, because like, how great is it? Like, I get so excited when I see like an old couple and they're wearing the most outrageous clothes and glasses, and that's just what they wear. Because they're like, fuck it.
There's this beautiful family on Instagram. You know how you end up following really random people. They're an American family. They've got like 5 kids. Can't even remember what the handle is. And this husband and wife, they do this thing called Try on Tuesdays. And so the couple, the husband and wife, they just do all these random things on Tuesdays. And most of the video is just them laughing at each other and together. And it is the most wholesome thing on my feed because they're just really funny and silly together. And then they're really loving and beautiful with their 5 kids. But them laughing together just makes you laugh. It's that silent wheezing laughing. There's no sound, but they're just falling on the floor laughing at each other. And I'm like, I just need to see that every day because that just actually give me hope for the world, but also go, that's what we actually need to come back to.
Yeah. I mean, what could also help is your side business, Getting Stoned with Lael. That would really, I don't know why the signage isn't up here today, but that would be really helpful in
every time you said that on the Imperfects, part of me is like, oh my God, I work with children, right? But do you know the amount of people that say that to me? That's the best. You should have that. And I'm like, there would be a lot more silliness if that was the case.
Well, when weed becomes legal in Australia, you should be on that.
I will. That'll be my next side hustle. So I'll have more fun. All right. To finish up, what have you got going on? What would you like people to know about? Is there anything in the works?
The Imperfects is my big thing at the moment. Other things pop up here and there, but yeah, the Imperfects is like my grounding place. Like that's sort of where I live, and between like. It's like my other family, like Hugh, Josh, Bridge, Bella, George. It's just like this great big group of people who I get to see all the time, and we meet great people, and like that is the most special thing to me at the moment.
No, it's such a joy. I just love witnessing the trajectory of what you guys have created and the wholesomeness. And I always thought that right at the beginning of when you guys started, you had this beautiful I don't want to say formula, it doesn't give it what it needs, but just the three of you, the humor, the depth, the emotional awareness, the vulnerability, it's just so needed for society. And I was talking to Josh and I was saying to him that I got an email. I had a call with a whole group of parents, and this one dad got on the call and he spoke about there were two really important things that had changed his life as a father. And he said the first thing was listening to my episode, that first one I did with you guys on parenting. He goes, it just opened my eyes to so much. And he goes, and the second was listening to Josh be really vulnerable and talk about his fathering journey and just being a man and being vulnerable, and that was okay. And that has changed his relationship with his family and his kids. And I was sharing that with Josh. And I think that's the magic and the beauty of what you guys do. The ripples go far and wide, just even the silliness, but also the humility and the vulnerability and the magic you all create is something really, really special. And I feel really honored to have been a tiny, small part of that. I'm so grateful for the platform that you guys gave me. It absolutely moved the needle for me a lot. But I hope it continues going for a long, long time because it's real magic.
Same. I hope it does as well. It's one of those things that grew so organically, one of those great things that, we just all found each other, and it's just one of those groups that the chemistry just worked. Yeah. And it's really hard to manufacture. It's really hard to cast. Yes. But when it happens for real, it's just like, I've been working in the industry for long enough to realize it is so hard to find, and radio stations are spending millions of dollars trying to find it, and it's really, really hard. And when it works, it just works, and it feels effortless. Yeah. And people think you're like geniuses, but it's like, well, no, we just became friends
together, and it's the connection. It's that beautiful safety and connection that you can feel.
People think we're geniuses. People probably don't think we're geniuses.
And it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan. I so appreciate your time. This conversation for me is really just, it's reminding me and bringing me back to how much more we need to play and be silly, and how good that is for our soul. So thank you for your beautiful wisdom of silliness.
Oh, ditto.
That was such a beautiful conversation. I feel like I had a smile on my face the whole time that Ryan and I were talking. I just love the energy he exudes, which is just so much about being playful and silly and how we actually need that. Yet I think what also really touched me in that conversation was the doubts that we all have as humans, especially performers or people that are putting their art out into the world. There's a whole process that happens that can often keep us stuck or keep us small. Which I really relate to too, when, you're putting your gifts or your magic out into the world. And I think it's so powerful for us to hear that from people that are really successful and doing amazing things, that we all have those wobbles and that we all have those voices in our heads. And, part of the work is just leaning in a bit to the discomfort or having the courage to do it anyway. I think if we could jump ahead to 30 or 40 years, if we looked back on our lives, would we be saying, why didn't I do it? Why didn't I give it a go? And I think it's a nice, beautiful little nudge to go, just do the thing, try it, jump off a cliff, step in, see what happens. You will learn something anyway. So this conversation for me was, it was a beautiful reminder about the courage it takes to be human and to live your fullest expression. The movie that Ryan touched on, we're going to put in the show notes. And also the family that I was talking about is called Full M House. You can find them on Instagram. If you want to giggle, this beautiful couple, they literally just laugh together and try these funny things. And it's just very wholesome and gorgeous. So if you need a little bit more of that in your life, then check it out. Again, I'm going to take from this conversation, we need to play, we need to be silly, and how beautiful and how important laughter is in our lives. So go be fun, go laugh, go be silly. Don't forget to be human. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question or contemplation. And visit my website laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore.
This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human.